Hey everyone, so it's been a good while since I've really dug into my INFP content, and I know that most of you guys are subbed to this channel for that specific reason. And while I do know that you guys know that I do like to explore different topics on this channel, I do want to deliver the stuff that you're really here for. I'm not gonna lie, I do really enjoy doing my other content because I feel that I've kind of pigeonholed myself into the INFP thing a little bit, just being honest here. But today I really want to give you guys something that you can eat up. So I'm going to be discussing the surprising things about the INFP personality type. I've talked about this a lot. Just because we are introverts, it doesn't mean that we are antisocial. For me personally, I can be quite shy when I meet people for the first time or when I'm getting to know people, but generally speaking, I actually really enjoy being around others, especially if I feel that I can relate to them on a deeper level. The INFP exterior is like really hard to crack, especially if we're in an environment where we don't know people very well, or when we're around people whom we're not very sure of. We're very protective of ourselves, so there are certain things we do keep, I guess you could say, hidden, but I think more so we keep until we really trust people and then we can let it all out. INFPs really do love people, but they do kind of have to be the right kind of people. Like, for example, I quite like Russell Brand, and I think that we would make good friends, not because he's a celebrity, but I really like his personality. I think he's, a really deep thinker, he's intellectual, and he's very open to different perspectives, and that's the kind of person that I would probably vibe with really well. I think the kind of person that Russell Brand is the kind of person I'd feel very comfortable around, where I can open myself up and trust that the other person would reciprocate. I guess it's a type of situation we prefer finding ourselves in when it comes to social interaction, where we can express certain kinds of information and then have that other person be able to understand what we're saying and to give us feedback or to engage in dialogue. I'm the kind of person who actually doesn't really like to be alone all that much. When I'm alone, I wind up feeling really isolated and lonely, and I do really enjoy having contact with others so that I can discuss my inner world, if that makes sense. I think that's just what it comes down to. We are socially selective, but when we find the right kinds of people, it's all go. I do often address the fact that just because we have these certain personality types, it doesn't mean that we're all the same. We're all incredibly different, no matter what our personality type is. And the MBTI in particular, it does have a lot of criticism. But as you guys know, the INFP personality type is like a sounding board for me to be able to relate to all of you guys who share common personality traits that I do and who have this kind of sensitivity and passion that we all share. And of course, like every group identity out there, everyone is an individual with their own individual thoughts, feelings, values, morals, etc. That of course includes INFPs, and while the stereotype of the INFP is that we are the champion of the cause, we have our heads in the clouds, and we like sunshines and rainbows and unicorns, for many of us it's not really that way at all. A few years back, I was joined to an INFP group on Facebook, and there was a lot of political discussion on these groups, and it was very evident that everyone in the group had their own kinds of thoughts and feelings around politics, and not everyone could agree on things. And it was very interesting seeing these kinds of interactions happen, because they would say things along the lines of, "You're an INFP, how can you care about these things or not care about these things?" And of course, the fact of the matter behind this is that everyone is so individual and we believe in different things. I think one of the issues that we have in society when it comes to looking at a person's group identity is that we tend to box those people in and assume that they should think a certain way just because of what their group identity is. And of course, this can go for personality types, INFPs. We do box them in, we make judgments, and we tend to stereotype. But alas, we are all different no matter which groups that we identify with. There's this really funny stereotype of the INFP that we're all kind of bubbly and friendly and empathic and kind of like candy floss playland if that makes sense. Or maybe that's a little bit more of what we'd think of the ENFP. But anyway, this sense that the INFP will always be reciprocative to people, kind to people, and sugarcoat things. Many INFPs have a lot of trouble with conflict and facing up to certain challenges, especially socially, where we find it difficult to gather our thoughts and to say what we mean and within our integrity. And sometimes this can mean that in a situation we may not express how we truly feel, or we may want to decrease tension. And look, I don't think anyone likes tension, but the aspect of being human is that there's always going to be tension. There's always going to be challenges and social conflicts. So unfortunately, that is something that we do all find ourselves in. INFPs have certain causes that we believe in, and these causes can be anything. They're all so different. It's not about what that cause actually is, but it's about how we absorb information and how we internalize it and how we therefore express ourselves. As I stated, INFPs may find it very difficult to face social challenges, where perhaps we have to put everything out on the table and to address certain problems. And this may be confused with agreeableness. Now, I've taken the Big 5 personality test, and my level of agreeableness was really low. I can't remember the exact number it was, but I wasn't very agreeable when I took that test. Well, my results mentioned that I wasn't very agreeable. And look, you wouldn't know this if we just met and we were having a discussion. I'm very polite, warm, and open usually, and it's a little bit masky, I guess. But when you really do get to know me and you get to know the kind of causes that I believe in and my opinions on things, because yes, I'm incredibly opinionated about things, but you wouldn't know unless you know me very well. When I am comfortable socially, I don't automatically find it all that uncomfortable to be able to express my opinions. I'm a very, very passionate person, and if you sat down with my family for 5 minutes and you asked them questions about me, this is something that would probably come up at the top of the list. In fact, it's gotten me into a lot of trouble because sometimes I can be dismissive towards others, and that is not something that I like to admit about myself, but it's true. When I feel very strongly about a subject, it's a little bit hard for me to actually take my barriers down and listen to the other person. And this is something that I addressed in my last video about why your enemies need to be right. I've addressed this one in the past too. We are not as naive as people think we are. Perhaps this just comes with a life experience because, yeah, I used to be super naive. When I was a teenager, I didn't know anything. And even now, I don't know anything. But that's just something that I realize as I've gotten older, is that you always have room to grow and learn and improve. And that always comes with challenges that you face, lessons that you learn. And there is a lesson every day of your life. Sometimes big, sometimes small, but those lessons are there. And once you begin to understand that life is a journey and you learn things and it's difficult, and that is where I think a person can become a lot more wise and less naive. I used to be quick into jumping into things without understanding the nuance of a situation. It could be taking out loans because you have this short-sighted vision of what you want to achieve. It can also be jumping into relationships and trusting people right off the bat. And while INFPs have this stereotype of being dreamy and idealistic and just being away with it, it doesn't mean that we're automatically naive and we're going to be making mistakes and not understanding how things work. When I was younger, I had found myself in relationships that weren't very good for me. My second boyfriend didn't treat me all that well and he cheated on me, and I guess I was in this position of maybe kind of low self-esteem where I just forgave him and believed that he wouldn't hurt me again, and alas, he did it again. And while I was naive at that age, I certainly learnt from that situation. I learnt how to read people better, how to interact emotionally with people. I learnt that when a person breaks your trust and does so a few times, that they're probably not going to change unless they have a big life shock. I 100% do believe people can change, but it has to come from them. And if you're not willing to put certain boundaries up, they're just going to keep crossing over them because it's easy. So while INFPs can be emotional sponges and really care for the people in their lives, they want to be good companions, yeah, it doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be naive. And this one tail ends off of the we're not automatically naive. God, my voice is cracking. I have a little bit of a sore throat. No, it's not the Rona. As I've been stating, there is this stereotype that INFPs just have their head in the clouds and that they are really idealistic about life. That stereotype is just not true. And I think when you go through certain life challenges, and especially if you have a mental illness on top of that, you realize that life in general is not kind, that life is suffering. Like, that's just a fact. That's how you deal with that suffering. Many INFPs have a really keen sense of trying to understand what other people go through. We do tend to be pretty empathetic and we are reasonably open. I understand that there is no such thing as a fairy tale or a utopia. I understand that people are going to suffer, they're going to have challenges, and that being a human being on this planet is not an easy task. Many INFPs have gone through so much hardship, and this kind of hardship is what brings you those life lessons. It teaches you a lot about yourself, about your shadow self in particular. And that is a big strength in itself, is to be able to look at yourself, to practice self-reflection and to understand the things about yourself that aren't serving you. And that is something that many of we INFPs do really well. It doesn't mean that life is any easier, of course, but it does mean that we have this level of understanding about life where it's like you almost read between the lines and see the bigger picture. At least that's what it is for me. So anyway, you guys, this wraps up this video, but I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you may have learned something or that it's opened up your perspective a little bit. You could disagree with them, let me know. But I hope you have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys all for the next video. Bye.